We shall begin from this lead article of today's The Hindu, Smoke Signals from the Renewable Energy Sphere. The article is based on the Indian Oil Corporation's launch of a patented solar cook stove at the Indian Energy Week that was held recently in Bengaluru as part of G20 calendar events. This solar cook stove, conceptualized by PSU Indian Oil Corporation, has been dubbed as a catalyst in accelerating adoption of low carbon options, along with biofuels, electric vehicles, and green hydrogen. Since the consumption of fuel wood in India is very high, so renewable energy based cook stove will be very helpful in combating greenhouse gas emission and indeed will act as a catalyst in accelerating adoption of low carbon options or propelling renewable energy. The solar cook stove launched by Indian Oil Corporation has two characteristics. One, that it can be used indoor. Indoor operation is possible because it stores solar energy. And later, when you want to cook, that stored energy will be released and you can use it indoor. Additionally, it can be used in dual mode. If there is prolonged cloudy weather and there is no charge stored, then even using electricity, you can use the cook stove. That's why the uncertainty which is there in the renewable energy, that won't be there. And hence, it's considered as a breakthrough invention. Previously, in various DNS, separately these topics have been covered. Biofuels, electric vehicles, green hydrogen, they all have been covered separately. Here what we will do is, we will talk about important breakthroughs that act as catalyst to propel renewable energy adoption. So we'll quickly talk about the breakthroughs in biofuels, electric vehicles, green hydrogen, and otherwise. The recent breakthroughs in biofuels that has happened because of development of synthetic biology. Biofuels, you understand, the fuels which are derived from living cells, like bioethanol, biodiesel. Synthetic biology uses genetically modified organisms to produce biofuels more efficiently and at lower cost. Basically, synthetic biology involves modifying the DNA of microorganisms such as bacteria or yeast to make them produce specific components that can be converted into biofuels. In 2021, researchers at the University of California reported a breakthrough in synthetic biology that could lead to more efficient production of biofuels. They used CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing technology to modify the DNA of yeast, creating a strain of yeast that produces higher levels of fatty acids, and those fatty acids are finally converted into biofuels. The researchers found that the modified yeast produced 17 times more fatty acids compared to unmodified yeast. The modified yeast also grew faster, and hence the time and the cost required to produce biofuel considerably reduced. So we can say that the synthetic biology has accelerated the adoption of renewable energy in terms of biofuel. Similarly, electric vehicles, it is also accelerating the adoption of renewable energy, and electric vehicles itself gets propelled by various breakthroughs like solid-state batteries. Solid-state batteries are a type of battery that uses solid electrolyte instead of liquid electrolyte. Electrolytes are the salts that helps in the process of electrolysis. Because they use solid electrolytes, they are more energy dense, they're also safer for transportation, and they last longer compared to traditional lithium-ion batteries. Last year, Toyota has announced that it has developed a solid-state battery that can be used in electric vehicles, making the electric vehicles, and you understand, since it's energy dense, so the range of the electric vehicle will be longer. It will also enable faster charging. The overall cost of the battery also decreases, hence reducing the cost of electric vehicles. Using solid-state batteries, the range of electric vehicles are now being enhanced. Ford already has announced last year that its upcoming electric vehicle model F-150, it's a kind of pickup truck. It will have a range of around 300 miles on a single charge. Another breakthrough technology helping in faster adoption of electric vehicles is wireless charging. Wireless charging actually are also available for mobile phones. Wireless charging technology uses electromagnetic fields to transfer energy between charging pad and an electric vehicle. So essentially, there is no need of cables and plugs. And you understand that development of infrastructure for charging of electric vehicle is a big hurdle in its adoption. In the process of charging, you understand that energy is transferred from the source to the battery, and that energy can be transferred through wave as well. Just like you get information in the form of data packets from Wi-Fi, we get energy from the sun through waves. It's possible to transfer energy through waves. These days, electromagnetic bombs are also being prepared. Huge amount of energy can be transferred through waves, and hence charging can also be done through electromagnetic waves. In that case, you do not require wires and sockets. And this already has been done. Last year, BMW has announced that it has developed a wireless charging pad for its iX3 electric vehicle. This breakthrough could make electric vehicle charging more convenient and accessible, particularly for people who live in urban areas or do not have access to dedicated charging stations. You understand that improvement in storage technology, for example, adoption of solid-state batteries, it has made the charging process faster. Last year, Tesla announced that it has developed a new fast charging system. They have named it as Mega Charger, and it's capable of charging its electric semi-trucks in less than an hour. And all these are going to make electric vehicles more practical for commercial applications. Similarly, if we talk about some of the breakthroughs in the area of green hydrogen, you understand that hydrogen is produced by splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. And this process is called as electrolysis. Lysis meaning breakdown, electrolysis meaning breaking it down by passing electricity through the base material. And electrolysis is carried out by electrolyzer. So basically, to improve the production of hydrogen, better electrolyzers are to be made. Electrolyzers are devices that use electricity to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. There have been recent breakthroughs in the electrolyzer technology, making it more efficient, cost-effective, and hence making green hydrogen production more viable. For example, again last year, Siemens Energy, it has announced that it had developed a new type of hydrogen-efficient electrolyzer. And this is much more efficient than traditional electrolyzers and hence producing green hydrogen at lower cost. Offshore wind power, although it's not a technology or an invention, it's a concept, but it's hugely important for propelling renewable energy. Offshore wind power has the potential to be a key source of renewable energy for green hydrogen production. Recently, a consortium of companies in Denmark. Denmark is one of the countries that leads in renewable energy production. They have announced a plan to build an offshore wind farm with a capacity of 3 gigawatt. And the electricity produced by this wind farm will be used to produce green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is produced using electricity. When the electricity is passed through water, you get hydrogen and oxygen. But that electricity must have been produced using renewable energy. Otherwise, it will not be green hydrogen. And because of a scarcity of land, wind farm, they require huge pieces of land. They are not easy to be set up onshore. So offshore wind farm, they are helping to solve the problem of land scarcity and enabling the production of green hydrogen. Hydrogen fuel cells. Fuel cells, they produce electricity. Hydrogen fuel cell would use hydrogen to generate electricity, with water as the only byproduct. There have been breakthroughs in the fuel cell technology that have made them more efficient and cost-effective, making them more viable for a range of applications, like in power generation and also in logistics. You must have recently heard about the first hydrogen-based bus service that was recently started in Delhi. Toyota, it announced that it had developed a new fuel cell system, much more efficient and powerful than the previous versions. Because of these powerful fuel cells, using nanotechnology in the membrane of the fuel cells, hydrogen fuel cell based vehicles are now becoming more popular than traditional electric vehicles. So that's about biofuels, electric vehicles, and green hydrogen, how they are propelling renewable energy, and the factors in turn enabling the adoption of biofuels, electric vehicles, and green hydrogen. Now let's talk about, in general, the technologies and the inventions which are helping in the propulsion and expansion of renewable energy. If we talk about renewable energy, the first and the foremost thing that we need to discuss is energy storage systems. You understand that traditionally the problem with renewable energy is the erratic nature of these energies. You sometimes have wind current, but you don't have it all the time. Even the speed of the wind currents keep on changing. The same problem you'll have with the wave energy. So efficient energy storage system is imperative for renewable energy systems to become successful, so that as and when you are able to tap the renewable energy, you keep on storing it, and steadily with a constant frequency you can feed it into the main line. So you need to store whatever you produce so that in a stabilized manner you can feed either in the households or into the main grid. In the energy storage systems, we already have talked about solid state batteries which are now being produced. But earlier, the main technology for energy storage system was lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion battery is a very popular choice for energy storage system due to its high energy density. Because lithium is smaller in size, atomic number 3. So the energy density on this small metal is very high. There is low self-discharge rate because of high electropositivity of the metal. And there is long cycle life, meaning you can charge it again and again every time it gets discharged for a long period of time. The Mega Pack battery system, as we have talked about it earlier, Tesla's new Mega Pack battery system, this was introduced in 2019. It can store up to 3 megawatt hour of energy. The unit of energy for the household purpose is kilowatt hour. The Mega Pack battery system which are now being developed, they can store energy to the extent of few megawatt hour. But now we are moving towards solid state batteries. We also have other energy storage systems like thermal energy storage system. It stores energy in the form of heat, which can be used to generate electricity or to provide heating and cooling. Recently, a team of researchers from University of California, Los Angeles, they have developed a new type of thermal energy storage system that uses the phase change material to store energy. And this new thermal energy storage system has higher energy density. It can be used for a range of applications, including solar power plants and electric vehicles. Solar energy is one of the favorites among the renewable energy. We already have talked about offshore solar panels. The floating solar panels, it can be used either offshore or even over dams or rivers. They help to overcome the challenge of land scarcity for solar installations. They are particularly useful for countries with large water bodies such as lakes, reservoirs, or having long coastline. There are solar projects in India using floating solar panels. Are you aware of them? Traditionally, solar cells, they are based on silicon wafers made up of silicon-based semiconductors. But a new material called as perovskite, they are now being used to produce solar cells. This is particularly very important. It's a new breakthrough for solar cells manufacturation. The cost of perovskite solar cell is 1/10 of silicon-based solar cells. They're also more efficient in converting sunlight into electricity. Researchers are now working in development of a new type of solar cell that can be applied as a paint to any surface. They are called as solar paint. This technology has the potential to transform buildings into self-sufficient power stations, generating electricity from the sun without the need for traditional solar panels. But this technology has not been commercialized yet. When it will be a real revolution in the area of solar energy. Researchers are also developing a new technology that mimics the process of photosynthesis in plants, hoping to use sunlight to produce energy from water and carbon dioxide, just like plants do. This technology has the potential to produce clean, renewable fuels like hydrogen and methane. These two technologies are in pipeline, but they are really important for the future of renewable energy. One of the limitation of wind energy, the working of wind farm, is the efficiency of wind turbines. Advanced wind turbines are being developed that can generate more electricity from the same wind speed. This is achieved through use of longer blades, taller towers, and more advanced control system. Nanotechnology and new materials are being used to keep the blades light so that even when they are long, the overall weight is less and they are very strong so that under very high wind current they do not break down. 3D printing technology is also being used to make the wind turbines more advanced. Better design of wind turbine blades are possible using 3D printing. An advanced control system of the wind turbines based upon the speed of the wind and the direction of the wind is being made possible through Internet of Things. You must be familiar with the concept of smart grids. Smart grids are advanced energy networks that use sensors, automation, control technologies to manage and distribute electricity. Smart grids can take electricity and give electricity. It can get electricity from the main line, from the main grid, and if the system has enough electricity stored, maybe from the wind farm or the solar energy, then it can feed back into the grid as well. So when it is taking energy, the meter is going up, and when it is feeding energy, the meter is going down. And that's how the overall electricity bill can be reduced. To make it even more smarter, new technology like artificial intelligence and blockchain are used. The AI algorithm can be used to predict the output of solar farm or wind turbine so that better planning and management of the energy farm can be done. And as you understand the concept of smart grids, it will take energy but it can also give energy. So there's a kind of trade that is happening in smart grids. And here comes the blockchain technology that can be used to create peer-to-peer energy trading platforms. And these platforms would allow individuals and business to buy and sell renewable energy directly to one another without the need for a centralized energy provider. But for such a trading platform to work, data security is important and the whole trail of information has to be kept. And you understand in any such scenario, blockchain technology would be very effective. Although wind lidar is not a new technology, but suddenly the demand for wind lidar has gone up. Wind lidar technology basically uses lasers to measure the wind speed and direction at high altitudes. So it provides more accurate data for wind energy forecasting and optimization. Wind lidars increases the efficiency and also the reliability of wind turbines. And since the wind turbines are getting popular in the wind farm or in the mixed energy farm having both solar energy and wind energy production. So the wind lidar demand is increasing and more advanced laser-based wind lidar are now being developed, increasing the overall efficiency and reliability of wind farms. A new kind of technology called as solar saver are also now being developed. Solar savers, what it does is it captures solar energy and stores it for a very long period of time, years and years. Some of the scientists from Sweden and also from China, they have developed solar saver technology that can store solar energy for around 18 years. If it can store solar energy, it can be released in the form of electricity. Now work is being carried out to develop a method, to develop a system where self-charging of electronics using stored solar energy on demand can happen. So either you plug the wire into it as you do in power banks, or whenever the battery goes down, automatically the charging begins, either because of the system is embedded with the mobile phone or through electromagnetic charging, wireless charging. Solar saver technology would be extremely important in the future for harnessing solar energy and storing it for a longer period of time. We already have talked about hydrogen fuel cells. Hydrogen fuel cells are of various types, but the most popular kind of hydrogen fuel cell is the one that has proton exchange membrane. It's called as proton exchange membrane fuel cells. Researchers from the University of California, Los Angeles, they have produced a new type of proton exchange membrane fuel cells that uses carbon nanotubes. You understand that at nanoscale, surface area becomes extremely high. So carbon nanotube based catalyst will have extremely high surface, and the purpose of catalysts in these instruments is to provide surface area. So nanotechnology will increase the surface area, will increase the process of catalysis, making things more efficient. We also have talked about that fuel cell electric vehicles, they are becoming popular than traditional electric vehicles. And Toyota already has introduced its fuel cell electric vehicle called as Mirai. It has longer range, it has faster refueling times. We began studying this topic from solar cook stove. Solar cook stove is considered as catalyst in accelerating adoption of low carbon options. Now I suppose you are aware of other catalysts that are accelerating adoption of low carbon options. The title of the news article was Smoke Signals from Renewable Energy Sphere. Smoke signals is a kind of alarm. The alarm here is the cost that Indian Oil Corporation has declared tentative is around 15,000 to 25,000 for these solar cook stoves. The whole thing is now being done by PSU that has to remain competitive and profitable. And there is no announcement yet that these will be subsidized by the government. In the past, the stoves which were the replacement of fuel wood, they were subsidized by the government. And in absence of subsidy, the success of these remains uncertain. So that's the smoke signal that the author is talking about. This article is from the text and the context section of today's newspaper, The Sophisticated Anatomy of Heat Waves. Last week, the Indian Meteorological Department warned that the maximum temperature over northwest, west, and central India could be 3 to 5 degrees Celsius higher than the long-term average. And on February 21, the national capital recorded its third hottest February day. It had a temperature of 33.6 degrees Celsius. For February, it's too hot. In fact, it was the hottest in last 5 decades. It's not just in India. The temperature over Western Russia, down to Kazakhstan, and over Pakistan and Afghanistan, all the way into Spain and Portugal. In all these regions, the temperature were more than 10 degrees Celsius warmer during February. So the problem of heat waves is rising, it is intensifying and becoming very, very serious. The present criteria given by IMD to declare a region under the influence of heat wave are these two. If the ambient temperature deviates by at least 4.5 to 6.4 degrees Celsius from the long-term average. Deviation above 6.4 degrees Celsius is considered to be severe heat wave. Below 4.5 degrees Celsius, it's not considered to be heat wave. Between 4.5 to 6.4, it's heat wave. And in terms of absolute temperature, if the region in a plain reaches maximum temperature above 45 degrees Celsius or 37 degrees Celsius in a hill station, then also the region is considered to be under the influence of heat wave. The present persistence and rising cases of heat wave in India is somehow understood to be linked with La Nina. You must have some rudimentary idea of El Nino and La Nina circulations in ocean currents and the air current circulation. Normally what happens, the ocean current and the air circulation, they are linked up. Suppose there is upwelling in a region, meaning the water from the bottom of the ocean or the sea is rising up. The water that is at the bottom will obviously be cooler away from the sun rays. When it rises up, it brings the nutrients with it, which helps in the growth of fishes and is a boon for fishermen. But when the cold water comes up, it cools the entire region, developing high pressure, and the air current starts sinking down. So this is how the ocean current moves. It goes up to the surface, travels on the surface across the equatorial region, and then sinks down. When it comes up, it is cooler. When it keeps traveling on the surface, it gets warmed up, and then it sinks down. Over the surface, above the ocean current, flows the trade winds. During La Nina phase, this upwelling is strong. And strong upwelling, strong ocean current on the surface causes the trade winds to be strong. And these trade winds flowing over the surface ocean and during the La Nina phase, they get strengthened and hence they carry this weather disturbance elsewhere, affecting large parts of the world. Now, we will not travel through the complicated maze, but the bottom line is the effect of La Nina is such that in India, it causes wet and cold winters. Therefore, the current effect of La Nina is completely unexpected. I hope you are aware that since last 3 years, we have the effect of La Nina. Normally, every alternate year is La Nina and El Nino. El Nino will be the exact opposite of it. The upwelling will be very, very weak. So the region here will not be cold, rather it will be hot. So the air current will not be sinking, rather it will be rising. And the rising air current will cause rainfall. But sometimes it so happens that the El Nino persists. It could persist for 2 years, 3 years, or sometimes rarely for even more. But since last 3 years has been La Nina, we expect this year to be El Nino year. But I'm telling you, La Nina causes wet and cold winters. But we are having now heat waves. So something is going on which is not completely understood. It is speculated that because of global warming, the Arctic high is somehow getting coupled with La Nina. So this water circulation that you see here, this is getting coupled with the air circulation that is being caused by Arctic high. And this coupling is causing the persistence of La Nina and some weird weather pattern that we do not completely understand. But from the exam perspective, you should know the basic idea of heat wave and the reasons that causes heat waves to the extent that we understand very clearly. There are certain factors that causes heat waves and they are unambiguous. The present prevalence and increasing intensity is something which is not clearly understood. But traditionally, the reasons for heat waves are understood properly, and those are the things that you need to know very, very clearly. Heat waves are caused because of one of the two reasons. Either the warm air is flowing in from somewhere or it is being produced locally. That means you have warm air over the land. And if you have warm air over the land persistently, obviously it's going to cause dehydration in the region and the problems which is called as heat waves. The second reason for heat wave is the sinking down of air. You would know that when air expands, it gets cooled down. When you fill up the balloon with air and you suddenly let it go, and all the air funnels out rapidly. Inside the balloon, the air was restricted. The volume was defined. Outside the balloon, the volume is not defined. It can expand as much as it wants. So the air basically expands. And you would feel that tip of balloon, the opening from where the air has come out, cools down. When air expands, it cools down. When the air mass gets denser, it heats up. The sinking down of air causes it to be compressed. And compression in the air, increasing the density, heats it up. The air can be compressed because it's sinking down from the top of the mountain. The air can also be compressed because of the effect of air current circulation. So if the air mass is getting compressed considerably for a longer period of time, it will cause heat waves. So fundamentally, either you get warm air from somewhere or you get compressed air because of some reason. Then you will have heat waves. So how do these two fundamental things get affected by various phenomena and we get heat waves in India? Mostly in the north and northwestern region. First of all, in spring, India typically has air flowing in from west and northwest. As the temperature starts to rise, we have a development of low pressure and an air current builds up like this because of high pressure in the Mediterranean Sea. We have air flowing in from the west and the northwestern region. But because of the climate change effect, West Asia is warming faster than other regions in around the same latitude. And hence it serves as a source of the warm air that blows into India. And likewise, air flowing in from northwest rolls in over the mountains of Afghanistan and Pakistan. So some compression also happens on the leeward side of these mountains. And hence the air mass enters into India, becoming very, very warm. So both of these factors actually operates on the air current, the air mass entering into India from the west and the northwest region. While air mass flowing in over the ocean is expected to bring cool air. The problem here is that the Arabian Sea, unfortunately, is warming faster than most of the ocean region. And hence the air current coming in from the Arabian Sea is not helping the cause of weakening the condition for formation of heat waves. There are many reasons why Arabian Sea is warming faster compared to other sea and ocean region. First of all, it is more shallow. The ocean currents are such that it does not effectively distribute the sea surface temperature. And also because of urbanization, in and around the region of Arabian Sea, the effluent from industries, they are heating up the water. There are some other reasons as well. For example, weakening of monsoon. In the recent time, the rainfall over the Arabian Sea because of monsoon has been decreasing. And you can think of few other reasons as well. You know that during the summer months, westerly winds blow across India. You know that during summer months, the westerly winds blow across India. And these winds originating over Arabian Sea and the Gulf of Oman and the nearby region, they bring hot and dry air to the northwestern region in India. And that becomes one of the reasons for prolonged heat wave in these areas. In India, during the pre-monsoon period, around April to June, a high pressure system often develops over the northwestern India. And we have just discussed high pressure system will cause the air currents to sink down. Sinking air will get compressed and heated up, and that may cause heat waves as well. When the air sinks, it compresses and warms up, and if the pressure system is very strong and remains there for a longer period of time, just as we see currently, then that may lead up to higher surface temperature, causing heat waves. This high pressure system is also caused because of the circulation of westerly wind in the upper atmosphere. In the upper atmosphere, there are very strong westerly winds. They come in from the Atlantic Ocean over to India during spring. These winds are blowing much faster than the planet itself. So because of the friction, the air currents in the lower atmosphere, they start getting compressed, and this descending air compresses and warms up to generate some heat waves. In addition to these large scale air currents, local winds can also contribute to the formation and intensity of heat waves. For example, in the city of Delhi, local winds such as Lu or the Kal Baisakhi can contribute to the severity of heat waves by bringing hot and dry air to the city. According to some recent research, the lapse rate, which is declining, also becomes a cause for the severity of heat waves. Lapse rate is the rate at which temperature cools from the surface as we move up in the atmosphere. And the lapse rate is declining, meaning the global warming tends to warm the upper atmosphere faster than air near the surface. And this means that the sinking air is warmer due to global warming because of decreasing lapse rate. And hence it increases the chances of heat waves as it sinks and compresses and gets heated up. So from the exam perspective, these are the traditional reasons that we have understood for heat waves in west and northwestern region of India. But currently we see that the heat waves are also in the hilly regions, and heat waves are also going deeper into the Indian peninsula. So this increasing expanse and intensity of heat wave is something which is not very clear at this stage. But basic idea about heat wave is this, and this is something that you should be very clear with. There is a news article on page number 12. eSanjeevani is a great boon, shows power of digital India, Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi, in his recent Mann Ki Baat, has made a mention of eSanjeevani. The teleconsultation under this application has crossed the figure of 10 crore. This shows the power and potential of telemedicine in the background of well-developed digital infrastructure in India. eSanjeevani is a telemedicine platform launched by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare back in April 2020. This was the time when the COVID-19 had its grip on India. The first lockdown was in March 2020. So the aim of the platform was to provide healthcare services to people in remote areas during the COVID-19 pandemic. This platform provides two variants of telemedicine services. One is doctor to doctor. It is called as eSanjeevani OPD. Here, specialist doctors can be consulted by other doctors, and the data of the patient, the medical records, can be securely shared among the doctors. The other variants enables patient to doctor consultation. It provides communication in multiple language and easy to use interface. And eSanjeevani is part of larger Ayushman Bharat digital health mission. Apart from eSanjeevani, there are other telemedicine platforms which you may like to remember for just cursory mention in the mains answer somewhere. One of the important telemedicine platform of Government of India is M-Diabetes. Here the government has collaborated with various organizations including WHO. Then in the private sector there are many platforms, but some are worth mentioning. For example, Aravind Eye Hospital. This is Tamil Nadu based organization, and it used telemedicine to provide eye care services to people in remote areas. But however, it has centers all across India. It has more than 100 centers. Medanta E-Clinic and Life Supporters Institute of Health Science. They have more specialist doctors registered with them, cardiologists, neurologists, oncologists, and they provide more prompt services during the time of emergency. I won't carry forward the topic more, but what I do expect from you is to give me a good write-up of significance of telemedicine in India. Think from various dimensions, as many dimensions as you can think of from the syllabus, and post that in the comment section. There is an article on page number 7, MGNREGS woes, payment delays, tech issues, budget cuts, the worries which are there in the program Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Although much of the statistical analysis has been done in the article, we shall cover this article from the perspective of exam and do as much as is important for the exam. National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme is a demand-driven social security measure that provides minimum of 100 days of unskilled work per household in a financial year. These information are important for the prelims examination. Who is eligible for the scheme? anyone who is above 18 years of age and reside in rural areas. This scheme is applicable throughout the country except for those districts which has 100% urban population. And how urban and rural population are decided in India, you have to tell me that in the comment section. This scheme has been hailed by many, including World Bank, as the largest anti-poverty program. And the importance of this scheme is very high due to the fact that it is considered as backbone of rural economy whenever there is economic distress. According to the 2011 socio-economic caste census, around 40% of rural households are landless and depend on manual labor. This is the data that you have to keep up your sleeve to be used whenever there is a question on rural distress, rural employment generation in the mains examination. As we have discussed already, there were 7.6 crore families having active job cards under the scheme, and 5.5 crore families were seeking work under the scheme. And this is a huge number. This scheme is catering to the employment generation of large number of people. On an average, the daily wage has gone up substantially from the time this scheme was introduced. Present average daily wage is rupees 209. And you must also remember a fact from NSSO report that areas with low consumption expenditure have higher MGNREGS demand as compared to areas with higher consumption expenditure. Lower consumption expenditure signifies economic financial distress, less demand. And when there is less demand, more financial stress, then MGNREGS is an important source of income. And it also has been observed that women, SCs and STs as beneficiaries of MGNREGS, their percentage has increased over the period of time. Presently, women are around 50% in the workforce under MGNREGS. So despite all its lacuna, it is indeed a very important source of employment generation, especially in the time of economic distress. There are certain very important characteristics of this scheme which you have to remember for the mains exam. There is no concept of right to work under fundamental right in India. Right to work is not recognized as fundamental right, although it's a very important part of the active principle of the state policy, but it is not justifiable right. However, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme is right-based. You can go and ask for work, and if work is not given to you, then unemployment allowance will be given to you. So it is a right-based approach that has been adopted through MGNREGS. It is also demand-driven. Center gives resources to the state government depending upon how much demand is there for the work in the state. There is also no problem of targeting unlike other schemes because this scheme is self-targeting. You seek for work. If you need work, you go and ask for work. That is self-targeting, and hence this overcomes the problem of targeting. As we have talked about, there is unemployment allowance. If you go to seek work and work has not been provided to you within 15 days, then you are entitled for unemployment allowance. Unemployment allowance is not common in India, unlike Nordic nations. However, under this scheme, for the first time, this concept was introduced and it was institutionalized. If you don't get work, you'll get unemployment allowance. However, that will be lower than the wage that ordinarily a person will be getting under MGNREGA. The scheme adopts bottom-up approach and it strengthens grassroots democratic institution of our country, which is Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha actually is entitled to decide on the nature of work to be adopted in the village. And it is also entitled to implement 50% of the work in terms of cost. And the rest 50% is taken up by the district administration or the state government. Also, tools of good governance, strengthening transparency and accountability has been embedded in the scheme. For example, there is mandatory provision of social audit. There is also a provision of ombudsman system because CAG does not audit MGNREGS, and Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act also asks the state government to proactively disclose all the information on the web portal. And that's how the information we have got that 1.9 lakh people have got employment so far under NREGS. As we saw in the beginning, performance of the schemes taken for the vulnerable sections by the center and the state has been mentioned in the syllabus. So if you're doing any important scheme, you have to do the performance analysis of this scheme because that's the most likely thing to be asked in the mains exam. Let's do the same for National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. How the scheme is doing? The scheme is doing fairly well despite its lacuna that we will also discuss. But first thing is there has been increase in rural wages. As we have seen, the present wage under the scheme with some disparity among the state is 209 rupees. And it has gone up substantially from the time it was institutioned. Although to a limited extent, the scheme has helped in achieving the concept of decent work by providing facilities like shade and also Krishe facilities in certain NREGA sites, for example in Meghalaya, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. As we have seen a moment back that 5.5 crore households were given employment last year. On an average, 5 crore households have been given employment from 2008. Obviously, this will help in reducing the distressed migration. We have also discussed that the scheme is self-targeting. NREGS is also seen as a risk mitigation mechanism. As per the annual report of Ministry of Rural Development on NREGA, it has been shown that when rainfall is scanty, in those years, there is higher overall participation in NREGS. Although there has been claims and allegations that MGNREGA has diverted the manpower from agriculture, hurting agriculture. But Ministry of Rural Development in its annual report has put out that MGNREGA has actually helped agriculture. It has helped in various ways, for example, construction of agricultural assets like farm ponds, irrigation assets, and this has helped in the usage of barren lands for cultivation. This has also helped the small and marginal farmers in moving towards dual and multi-cropping, and this has also helped in making the water available in general for humans and livestock. NREGS has also helped in empowerment of weaker section and hence bringing social justice in society. This is a very important data that you have to remember that as per NSSO report, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes have accounted for 51% of manpower under NREGS. Women around 47%, and this has increased to around 50% right now. But the mandated percentage of women participation was 33%, and the women participation has surpassed much higher than this. You also have to know, as per the directive given by Ministry of Rural Development to the states, beneficiaries under Forest Right Acts are entitled for 150 days of employment as against 100 days of employment in general category. And certain states like Rajasthan has given employment of 200 days to communities like Shahriyas. So this is a very important scheme for socio-economic justice and empowerment of weaker sections. The scheme has also helped in financial inclusion because the payment under the scheme is done directly into the bank accounts of the beneficiaries through direct benefit transfer. You can also highlight that certain human development indicators are supposed to be increased, although we do not have very strong concrete data on this. But since the income generation has increased, based on that, you can say that food security and nutritional security must have improved to a certain extent. And when the income of adults in the households increases, that inversely affects child labor and positively impacts children's schooling. Because we saw in the beginning in the definition that this provides only unskilled work. And that is one of the major criticisms. We will see certain ways how to improve the design of MGNREGS. First and foremost is to expand the definition of work. There are certain states who have taken proactive measures in this regard. For example, state of Tamil Nadu, they have been giving employment in semi-skilled areas under MGNREGA as well. So definition of work must be improved to include semi-skills work as well. For example, desilting of canals and water bodies. This is taken up in the state of Tamil Nadu. This should be taken as a template and improvement in the act should be done by the Central Ministry of Rural Development. What can also be done is to converge MGNREGS with the skilling program of Government of India like Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Yojana. And involvement of SHGs can also be done either in skilling program or registration of workers etc. as was seen in Kudumba Shri in Kerala. When SHGs were involved, participation under MGNREGS improved drastically. MGNREGS is already using infrastructure of direct benefit transfer. So beneficiaries already have bank accounts and their mobile numbers are also registered. So the infrastructure of JAM Trinity can be further utilized to increase the insurance coverage through the MGNREGA program, and microcredit and micro insurance can also be given to the beneficiaries under MGNREGS. This is a very important suggestions for the improvement of the scheme. Gram Sabha, as we saw in the beginning, although has been made the central point in the implementation of the scheme, but the Gram Sabha is most of the time marginalized, sidelined by the district administration or the state government. But in this regard, Meghalaya as a state has become a role model in giving immense amount of power to the Gram Sabha in implementation of the scheme. This can also be considered by the Ministry of Rural Development to improve the scheme. As we saw previously in the feature of the scheme that social audit is mandatory for the scheme. But most of the state has not institutionalized it and social audit does not happen regularly. But Andhra Pradesh and Telangana government have made special provision for the social audit beyond what has been mentioned in the legislation. And hence, this becomes another important recommendation for the improvement of the scheme. We saw previously that there is an ombudsman system within the scheme, but it is recommended for better financial integrity and propriety. CAG must be allowed to do the audit of MGNREGS. Presently, there is no provision of grievance redressal. It is mentioned in the Act that you go for the work, you'll be given the work. If the work is not given within 15 days, you'll be given unemployment allowance. There is nowhere you can go for your grievance redressal except for the courts, and that is going to take time. So it is suggested that a grievance redressal mechanism should be made within the provision of the scheme. Presently, work of 100 days is mandated under the scheme, and it is suggested that because of the rural distress, this can be increased further, maybe to 150 or 200 days, depending upon the resource with the state government. Writing a small case study in the mains examination can be very marks fetching, especially in 15 marker. I'm giving you a case study which you have to trim down within 50 words to make it usable for the 15 markers in the mains exam. See, Tamil Nadu has institutionalized MGNREGS with Public Works Program. And the dual purpose of asset creation and livelihood security is ensured in this way. Ministry of Rural Development of the state is collaborating with Department of Agriculture, Fisheries, Horticulture, etc. for this purpose. This covers most of the aspect of MGNREGS. You can use this notes as a template for the answer writing, and you keep adding it throughout the year up till you write the mains examination, anything that you consider relevant to this topic.